I want to start by saying that today is a great day for Louisiana's future. It's a great day for Louisiana's children, and it is a great day for Louisiana's families. We are here to announce our letter grades, and both at the district level and at the school level are thrilled to report that we are seeing nearly across the board progress in our schools, in our classrooms, and across our school districts. I am joined today by Representative Steve Carter, who will be joining us for a couple of comments, by Superintendent Patrice Peugeot of the Ascension Parish School System, and Principal Margie Myers of Pecan Grove Elementary. I'm also joined by Bessie Representatives Jim Garvey and Bessie Representative Chaz Romer. All of them will be speaking today. But today's progress, and I'll walk through a presentation, indicates that the reforms are working. It indicates that across our system, educators and students are stepping up to the challenges in front of them, and I'll talk about a couple of facts that indicate why at a tremendous level, and that we should be nothing short of encouraged about the record results that we're seeing across our state today. I'll give you a couple of quick facts, walk through a presentation, then I'm going to ask Representative Carter, followed by some of our other speakers, to join me at the podium. Number one, in terms of school districts receive letter grades. As you know, last year 1 district received an A. This year 7 districts received an A, meaning that at the district-wide level there is tremendous progress. Zachary remains the highest performing district in the state. At the same time, DeSoto Parish showed the largest increase, an increase of nearly 16 points, 15.9 points on our scale of 200, meaning that DeSoto nearly grew by an entire letter grade. And congratulations to Superintendent Lee. 21 districts in total grew more than 10 points, including Ascension, which is a tremendous step forward for those districts, a record-breaking jump. Since 2008, 12 districts have increased their district performance score by 20 points. And that really is a tremendous stride in those places. But this year represents the largest number of districts making the largest level of growth. We have a record number of A schools this year. And of course, at the higher end of our performance, we should be thrilled with the fact that our highest performing schools are really getting to the highest level. We have 163 schools that have achieved, out of nearly 1,300, that have achieved the designation of an A school, and we should be thrilled with that progress. But I find this number to be the one that is the most compelling that I will share today, and that is that out of 1,283 schools, 983 made progress this year, made positive gains, meaning that there are 300 schools that did not. But if you think about that from a percentage basis, that is nearly 80% of schools made growth this year of some amount. It is across the board progress in our schools and in our school districts, and something that we should be tremendously proud of. At the other end of the scale, meaning schools that were rated F, the number of schools that were rated F increased by 42. However, I think important to be noted that is the result of the Bessie Board having raised the bar for what it means to be a failing school. 70 schools would have earned an F based on last year's 65. That's down from 115 that were F schools last year. So in other words, if you held the same measure, you would have actually had 70 schools this year as Fs, and down from 115 last year. And that's a critical shift in terms of the number of schools that would have been rated D before are now rated F. The total number of F schools is 96. I'm happy to walk through the math on questioning in terms of how we arrived at the number of F schools, but the total number is, I'm sorry, actually I'm getting those numbers wrong in my talking points. Let me go through the presentation. I'll show it to you up here, but the bottom line is the number of schools that are rated F has gone up. It is a result of the threshold for what it means to be an F gone up, and I'll get those numbers straight in the presentation. Finally, we are thrilled to be able to announce 440 top gain schools. Top Gains is a new designation this year. It's a designation that means that a school hit its school performance score target, which is a target that's pre-established at the beginning of the year. These are the 440 highest growth schools across the state. At the beginning of the year, the state said, here is the formula for establishing a target, and here is the number that you have to hit. 440 schools hit that target, including Ms. Meyer's school at Pecan Grove. They will, as a result, receive not only the designation of a Top Gain school, but they will also receive the designation of, a small financial incentive that they can use for student improvement, student achievement at their school. So congratulations to all involved. One just quick side note, I would say that the challenge continues for our schools, that this is a moment in which we should pause and celebrate great successes, but there will be future challenges. While the accountability system that has been set in place for next year, meaning the ACT involved, advanced placement involved system that has been set in place for next fall, is not designed to drop schools' performance. Our tests are getting harder. There are changes to our tests this year in the English language arts portion. There will be changes to other subjects over the next 2 years that will mean that schools will have to continue to up their game if they're to maintain this level of high performance. And so the challenges continue for our schools. Let's walk through a brief presentation just to talk about the numbers in specific. Number one, it's important, I think, to ground all of this in the context of why we have letter grades in the first place. Right now, even though half of our economy's jobs in Louisiana require some form of education after high school, only 19 out of 100 of our graduates achieve a college degree, whether it's an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. So the need to improve is evident, and letter grades are meant to design that, or to incent that. As you notice, over the course of the last several years, that accountability system has yielded both an increase in the number of A and B schools overall and a significant decrease in the number of D and F schools. The bar here has been constant. In other words, the numbers are the same for what it takes to be an A or B school, for what it takes to be a D or F school. So the decline in the number of schools at our lowest end and the incline in the number of schools at our highest end is a tremendously positive trend. Here's how the school performance score is arrived at, which yields the letter grade. And I do think this is important for onlookers to note. The elementary school rate is 90% test scores, 10% attendance rate. Middle schools are very similar with 90% test scores, 5% attendance, and 5% dropout, or how many kids drop out between your middle school grade and your high school entrance. And at the high school, you see that the rate is attributed to test scores 70% and graduation index 30%. And it's important to note that this year we saw moderate increases, positive but moderate increases in our elementary and middle school assessments. We saw significant increases in our high school assessment and our high school graduation rate, which is driving a lot of the gains that we're seeing today. There are score ranges for what letter grade you get based on what score you get. And you'll see that the one difference, as I alluded to before on the right, is that the threshold for what it means to be an F school increased from a score of 65 to 75. So there is an increase in the number of F schools by 42, but that is attributable to the fact that the threshold was increased. The number overall of F schools had last year was 115. This year it is 166. Is that right? Yeah. The top gain schools I went through before, schools that met their predetermined growth target from 2 to 10 points, are designated a top gain school, such as Pecan Grove. Top gain schools are receiving a monetary award. This is part of the MFP package that the Bessie Board passed last year to honor the extraordinary efforts and growth of these schools. You see here the distribution of letter grades. And you see that, as we said before, fortunately the percentage of A and B schools is going up, the percentage of D and F schools is going down. You see there is a small designation for T schools in the middle, which is a newly created category for schools that are wholly taken over by a different governing entity, meaning last year they were not under the same governing entity as this year. They may have been under a school system and then completely taken over by a charter school organization that kept the same kids but did not run the school last year. Thus, the T letter grade stands for turnaround school. And this, I think, really tells the main points of the story. Number one, you have a record number of A schools. Number two, you have an increase in F schools, but the increase is due exclusively to the rise of the threshold from 65 to 75. Here you see again how schools break out across different grade levels. And you see that those schools that have high school grades, the percentage of those schools are represented in each area. So in other words, the percentage of K-8 schools that were rated an A, the percentage of K-8 schools that were rated a B, and then across. And you see that our high schools, again, using a formula that's been used for the last several years, have done exceedingly well due to increased scores on the end of course and due to an increased graduation rate in 2011. Top gain schools, meaning schools that hit their targets, represent 1/3 of all schools that received a letter grade for this year. In terms of districts, here is the distribution by district in terms of letter grades. And as I mentioned before, last year there was only one district in the A category. Now there are 7. And I do want to put this in the context of changes that are to come. It's fantastic that schools and school districts have stepped up to meet the challenges ahead of them. And remember, these are all over time thresholds that have been raised. The threshold for what it means to be an F has been raised over time, and it was raised this year as well, for example. The challenge ahead will not so much be about the formula for how we arrive at letter grades, but about the fact that the tests are getting more difficult themselves, and schools are going to have to continue to step up their game to maintain this level of achievement on tests that are going to be more difficult starting this year. The state and districts such as Ascension, and Superintendent Peugeot will speak to it in a second, are doing everything they can to prepare for that. Our network teams are working with our districts regarding getting them ready for our compass structure and our Common Core assessments. We are providing already schools and school districts with sample test items and are training teachers on advanced placement, providing access to rigorous courses such as advanced placement courses. Our compass system is being implemented to give teachers feedback across our state, and we are expanding the recovery school district so as to move as many F schools that are persistently Fs out of that category as possible. I will come back up and take questions, but I'm going to ask a couple of speakers who have contributed themselves greatly to all of this to come up and make a couple of comments. Before I do, I want to say again, though, that these results are attributable entirely to the educators of this state, to our superintendents, our principals, our teachers, to their families who assist our students, and most of all, of course, to our students, all of whom are owed great thanks. And I also want to acknowledge Bessie Boards past and my predecessors, Superintendents Pasternak and Tyler, who did so much to lay the groundwork for what we are here to announce today. With that, I will turn it over to someone who has laid a great bit of this groundwork as well, and that's Representative Steve Carter. If you'd make a couple of comments, Representative.
Thank you, John, very much. It is a great day. The reason I say it's a great day is because of all the parents, the teachers, the principals, the superintendents, And Ms. Freiberg, I know that EBR has made some good giant steps, and I congratulate you and your staff and your people on those giant steps. You know, this is all about the youngsters of our state. Accountability, in my opinion, has helped out a great deal. When I first got into the legislature, it was not a letter grade. It was a star system of which I had no clue who was an A, B, C, or whatever. Nowadays, because I think of the accountability system, it gives parents an opportunity to see where the good schools are. And without us having an opportunity to get our youngsters a good education, then they have no way in life to be able to succeed. It's sad. We spend $3.4 billion a year and we're 49th. This is showing that what we're doing with a lot of the legislation that we're attempting to pass is working. So I want to congratulate John, you and your staff. Aaron, y'all have done a great job, and particularly you because it's your day. And I want to thank everybody for coming today, and I appreciate y'all's support in us attempting to try to ensure that every youngster in our state gets a quality education. Thank you.
I couldn't be more pleased with the growth that we have seen in Ascension Parish. We had growth across all of our schools, all the different types of schools. Ascension is a parish that has some extremely high-performing schools and some schools that struggle immensely. We're really a microcosm of the state. And in our district, across the board, our high-performing schools grew and our low-performing schools grew, as well as our middle schools. So I think that says a lot for the things that are going on. We had 16 out of our 27 schools were top gain schools. We had 9 A schools and 7 B schools. We have only 4 schools that are not at least at a C level at this point in Ascension Parish. And you know, this is about implementing high standards for students coupled with high standards for educators. Those two things go hand in hand. And you know what has to happen is we have to focus on results. For a long time in education, we focused on the process. But in Ascension Parish, we are really focusing on what are the outcomes. What is happening in every classroom with every student? We believe that when teachers collaborate in professional learning communities around student work and student outcomes, great things happen. Teachers have to track student achievement through rigorous common assessments that are tracked on a weekly basis, and interventions have to happen the minute a student starts to struggle. But interventions also have to happen for those kids who come in already knowing the concepts. Those kids have to be pushed to higher levels. And that's what we have tried to do in Ascension Parish. We also are very strong on sharing the best practices across schools. We believe in building lateral capacity across our district. So if there are great things happening in one school, then we have structures and processes in place through which principals gather in professional learning communities in order to share those best practices and network across our entire district. And then finally, the thing that we have done is that we've taken our lowest performing schools and we've placed them into what we call a turnaround zone. And in our turnaround zone, we give additional support and additional structures for success to those schools. We still use the professional learning communities concept, but we structure it more specifically by using the TAP process, the Teacher Advancement Program, which gives more human capital support as well as more structured support for those schools. And so I'm gonna let Ms. Myers talk just a bit because she is from one of those schools that is in our turnaround zone and has indeed demonstrated great growth. And I'm gonna let her chat a little bit about what it is that has happened at Pecan Grove this year to produce these outstanding results. Margie?
Absolutely. Well, as Superintendent Peugeot mentioned, what we do on a daily basis is look at what our children are doing, decide what it is that they need, whether it be an intervention for a deficit or possibly an enrichment because we found our children already know this particular skill. We work together, as she mentioned, in a professional learning community to develop a strategy or a skill that's going to meet whatever child's need is there. We implement it, and then the process starts again. We go back, we assess our students, we assess their needs, we decide what it is that will be beneficial and we make it work. And it does take a good amount of time, both during the school hours and after, but our teachers are more than willing to put the time and the effort in to meeting our students' needs. So it was a lot of hard work, but we've certainly gained. And we're thrilled to be a top gained school, and Superintendent White will be very excited to have those monetary rewards come our way, because we already know where that money's going, which is technology, because this is going to help us prepare our children for the testing that's to come. So yes, we are thrilled to be here.
I think it goes without saying that the key is about high expectations. Superintendent White alluded to what's to come in terms of Common Core state standards and the PARCC assessments. We in Ascension are really trying to anticipate that shift for our students and are already implementing a number of things in order to get them ready. But my experience in my well over 35 years of being an educator is that the more we expect of our students, the more they deliver. We indeed have to expect great things from them. We have to get our kids to be competitive internationally. And in order to do that, school has to look different than perhaps it's looked in the past. But we are convinced that through personalizing learning for every student and focusing on students' strengths and needs, that we can indeed achieve great things for our kids. So we're excited to be here, excited about the gains, and look forward to the challenge to come in terms of continuing on this forward progress in Ascension Parish. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Superintendent White. I appreciate the chance to speak today and to join in the celebration that we are seeing because of the increased test scores and results that we're issuing today, or that we're releasing today. I think it shows, as has been said several times today, that accountability works. As was just said, when we expect more of our students, we get more from our students. So I think today really is a good day to celebrate. But while we're doing this celebrating, we need to keep in mind that we still have a long way to go. The journey is not finished. More and more every day we are competing on an international level against other countries. That is why you see Bessie and the Department of Education instituting the Common Core standards, which are designed to bring us to an international competition type level. So we need to continue our work on that. As we implement the changes on the Common Core, this is going to put a lot of pressure on our students, a lot of pressure on our teachers, a lot of pressure on our principals and superintendents. And while this is being done, while these new standards are being implemented, we need to continue the department's and Bessie's commitment to help those teachers, principals, and superintendents, but particularly the teachers that are in the classrooms with our students. So I am committing myself to maintain that effort and to help the department maintain that effort. Thank you.
I want to congratulate Ascension Parish in particular, who happens to be in my district, for a district that already is one of the top performing districts in our state. To have such great growth across the board is truly amazing, and you and your team deserve a great deal of praise for that. And quite frankly, for all the schools around our state who did improve. Even those that did not meet their growth is not an easy thing to achieve. We can never overstate what a difficult task we have. We still have over 200,000 kids in this state below grade level. The challenges are still immense, but today we will take a moment to congratulate every school and every district that saw improvement, because it means our kids are learning. So let's don't forget this. These were difficult political battles to get many of these reforms passed, but they're even more difficult things to implement. Difficult political battles, but even more difficult to implement. But it is worth the effort. And again, I applaud every teacher and every school leader and every superintendent that saw growth, because their challenge is tremendous and quite frankly will become more difficult. Bessie will continue to raise the bar on expectations. As Superintendent Pujol pointed out, the key to better outcomes are higher expectations. The results you see today are the results of two things: higher expectations and leadership in the classroom and the school buildings. We will ask for the same effort going forward. In fact, we will ask for a greater effort. I want to thank the superintendent for his effort. The superintendents that preceded him laid the groundwork, and John has continued with that. I want to thank the superintendents, and most importantly, I want to thank the teachers, parents, and kids. We're asking a lot of them in a state that has been behind for 50 years, in a state that's been rated near the bottom. We're asking a lot of our school leadership and of our parents and of our kids to achieve, and they're getting it done. But there's lots of work to do. I look forward to the years coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romer. And I will echo that and just close by saying that today is a day to celebrate. It's a day to honor our teachers, a day to honor our kids and families and their efforts. The challenge is not remotely close to complete, but we're well on our way, and today's progress should be incredibly encouraging to those who are concerned with the future of this state. Why don't I pause now if members of the media have questions for either me or for other speakers this afternoon. We're making a great announcement that our state schools almost universally went up this year in their performance. Kids are achieving more, and we owe our educators and our families and our kids a great debt of gratitude and a big congratulations.
What was the increase in the number of A schools?
Well, we saw a big increase in the number of A schools. We've now got 164 A schools across the state. We had 7 districts this year that were rated A as opposed to 1 from last year, so we've seen a big increase at the top. But, you know, just as important, we're seeing a big increase at the bottom, where we've got a lot of schools that would have been Fs this year. They're moving out of that range, and we're seeing progress there as well. So it's good news all around.
What was your reaction when you first saw the scores?
Oh, elation, you know, very happy for educators, very happy for their families, very happy for our kids and their families.
I think it's fantastic. We've seen improvement in the letter grades and the school performance scores, as been said several times today, across the board. From A schools, B schools, C schools. D schools did not increase. They decreased significantly. And as we said several times, the F schools did increase, but that was all due to the fact that Bessie raised the bar about what is defined as an F school over the past year. And if we had kept the bar just the same, the number of F schools would have dropped almost in half.
What does this show about the progress of the reforms that have been implemented in Louisiana public schools?
I think it shows what, again, has been said several times today, which is that the more we raise the bar, the more our teachers, principals, and most importantly our students reach higher and meet that bar. The more we hold them accountable, the more they strive to meet that accountability, the more we expect from our students, the more they produce.
If people have questions like more information about what they've just heard, what should they do?
I think people should go, if they want more information, to louisianaschools.net and find out more information about their specific school or about their specific district.